Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Dan Feeney, Executive Vice President of Star Leasing, a division of People's Bank. I get it right?
Awesome.
Perfect. Like I said, I typically just, when I mess these up, it's typically on the introduction, Dan. But thank you for joining me, sir. I can see the tree in the background. I see how nice and warm it is. Every now and then I see some smoke in the window behind you.
Well, it's looks can be deceiving. I'm sitting here in Burlington, Vermont, where it's 20 degrees with about a 30-mile-an-hour wind outside, and we're dropping down to a low of about -10 by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So the smoke you see coming by is the snow blowing and probably the furnace working overtime to try and keep us warm up here.
I guess it's at times like this where I'm glad I moved to Arizona from the East Coast about 11 years ago. So
you don't need to rub it in, but I can appreciate where you are at times during the winter here in Vermont.
Dan, once again, thank you for joining me. The people that might not be familiar with yourself, do you mind just kind of going through your career today in equipment finance?
Sure. So, and Jesse, thanks for inviting me. I've enjoyed watching your other fireside chats with other folks in the industry. I'm actually an accountant by training. I went to college at Pace University in Westchester, New York. Ended up working for Price Waterhouse. My first client was a company called Institutional Leasing, which was owned by Lazard Frères. And I became enamored with leasing and equipment finance. Back then, obviously, this is back in 1986, so you can do the math as to how many years ago that was. And I was blown away by these folks who had these giant ledger sheets, and they were buying $1 million of planes and cargo ships and railroad cars and double declining depreciation, income tax credits, all this stuff. And they were basically buying this stuff on December 29th, and they were cash flow positive by December 31st. I was just enamored with equipment finance back then. And I stayed in accounting for 3 years, transferred up to Boston, and the Boston office. My wife and I got married, and we ended up. My first client in Boston was Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, which is now Keurig. And I was 25 years old, and at the end of the audit, they basically offered me a job as their CFO, and we used equipment financing to provide loader equipment to all of our big customers, and that was my second learning of or exposure to leasing. And moved to Burlington, and that was back in 1990. Did a lot of stuff between at Green Mountain Coffee. I owned a coffee company. We leased equipment when we were for our production facility there, and then in 2006 I became known at Star Leasing, which was founded in 1979 by 3 guys here in Burlington with $1,000 in capital and $50,000 line of credit. The guys were looking to retire, and so I went down and met with them, and we closed on that transaction in April of 2006. We bought a portfolio which had 8 employees, including the founder. Had a portfolio of about $12 million with about 2,200 customers. Average customer owed us about $5,000. And we closed out 2021. Fast forward, we have a $122 million portfolio with just over 5,000 customers. We have 45 employees. We're still in Burlington. And it has been just an unbelievable ride. And we went through the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, 2010, and now we've got a pandemic under our belt. So we've been through a lot of good times and also some not so good times. But we've had fun. We've grown every year, and I've loved every minute of the equipment finance part of my business life. And we're pretty agnostic at Star. We finance if piece of equipment, if it makes you money, saves you money, hopefully both, then we'll probably finance that piece of equipment if you've got good credit. Our average ticket price when I bought the business was $7,000, $8,000. And then when we most recently sold to People's Bank out of Marietta, Ohio, PBO for short, which is a We have 120 branches, and the average ticket price now is about $50,000. So we've been able to go up ticket a little bit, but our goal isn't to go to $500,000, $1 million average transactions. We stick in the micro ticket leasing world, small ticket leasing world, and it seemed to have worked over the last 15, 16 years, and we're looking forward to growing the portfolio in the future.
Perfect, and thank you for that overview there. It's amazing how many people you talk to where they're like CPAs or they're doing some consulting work, and all of a sudden they're like, "What is this equipment finance?" And then they get into it and they kind of get enamored by it. The next thing you know, you're another perfect example of that.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. The misnomer out there is that you really have to have horrendous credit to finance equipment, and you're dealing with bad credit. That's not the case at all. We have unbelievable credit scores. The average credit score in our portfolio is above 700, and so in fact we did a little static pool analysis, and there's really no correlation between the person's credit score and their failure. I mean, we've had just as many folks with 700 credit scores fail as folks that have 550 credit scores.
That's a good point there. That's for sure. So I know the majority of your branches are segmented to a few states. From an equipment finance perspective, are you nationwide, or are you just in those states that you have brick and mortar?
Yeah, the bank's footprint is Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia, with the recent acquisition of a bank in Premier Bank in Virginia and Washington, D.C. now. So those are the 5 main footprint areas for the bank. The equipment finance world, our Star Leasing, which is a division of the bank, we finance equipment across the country. For the most part, early on, we were you go down through almost like Pennsylvania, go across the Northeast and go up to Maine. I would say that would be our majority, 60-65% of our portfolio was in that area or in those states. Since we've really started to expand our vendor programs, you really can't control where the vendor is selling their equipment. And so we've sort of expanded dramatically across the country. They asked Jesse James, why do you rob banks? He's like, well, that's where the money is. So why do you finance equipment in Florida and Texas? There's a lot of people down there. So we finance across the country, and we have we funded in 2021 just over $100 million in the division, with about 20% of that coming from brokers. So we do have a select few brokers. The majority of our business is through vendors, and then we also have repeat business of about 40% from existing customers.
Okay. So you mentioned, now you got a pandemic underneath your belt. The employees that you have, those 45 individuals, like, what did the last couple of years do to your office? Are you guys back in the office, or are you fully remote or hybrid?
Yeah. So on March 20th, it was a Friday, we made a decision to close the office like everybody else across the country did. And we basically said, well, let's all work from home for the next 2 or 3 weeks, not knowing that, 2 years plus later, we're still working from home. Vermont is an extremely well-run state by our governor, Phil Scott. And we had high concentration of folks who got vaccinated early. And because we're such a small state, we were able to sort of small state in terms of population, we're able to distance ourselves. One of the things I'm most proud of, Jesse, about Star Leasing was the way that at that point, I think we had about 35 employees, 34 employees, how much the employees helped each other on that Friday afternoon, taking home their CPUs. We just bought everybody in the office new computers, not laptops, but CPUs, dual monitors, telephone system, keyboard. And they went home on that Friday, set up their office at home, and everybody was operational on Monday. And so a lot of our younger employees helped some of our older employees climb around under desks and so forth. in spare bedrooms and in the basement and so forth, and help them get set up. I think that the biggest negative that we have experienced as a company during the pandemic is that the lack of interaction on a daily basis, weekly basis, of culture at North Star Leasing. My daughters, my three daughters, basically think that North Star Leasing was the premise to the office. We have an unbelievably great culture down there. We have a lot of fun. We work hard. We play hard, and I miss the interaction on a daily basis with folks. We currently have 3 or 4 or 5 of us that go to the office on a regular basis, and the productivity of the organization has increased. In 2019, we funded, 2019 we funded $50 million. In 2020, we funded 70 million. And in 2021, we funded 100 million, 110 million, 70, 70, and 50. And so working from home has not adversely affected our production, but it has adversely affected our culture, I think. And I'm looking forward to getting everybody back at some point when everybody feels comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, when people, I'm seeing that across the board, Dan, where people are even more productive, but from a culture perspective, that's what keeps people at organizations, right? So it's like, as a leader of your organization, it's like, what are you doing to try to get some of these people where it's like, okay, maybe we'll do a barbecue, maybe we'll do something. I don't know if you guys, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I've done as the manager of the organization is I pick up the phone, and I don't wait around for the Zoom calls or the team calls. I do pick up the phone and try to talk to folks on a more regular basis, and sort of surprise them by picking, they're like, oh, wow, what's Dan calling for? And I find it's important to ask about how their family's doing, what the kids are doing, soccer games and basketball games. And you have to keep in mind that your office is like your family. And I don't care what anybody says, but if you don't take care of your family, then you're gonna look bad. You're gonna look back and be disappointed in that. And and so a lot of our employees, they're single, and they wanna. The part of their family is North Star Leasing. So it's really important that we keep in touch with each other, checking in, emails, calls, have a little fun. And the only thing that I have found to be beneficial from COVID is that prior to COVID, I thought everybody had to work from the office and from Burlington. And we've made a number of hires from remote locations, and it's worked out really well. And so we've added, I think, 8 people, and I think 7 of them I still have not met, face to face yet.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I mean, prior to me joining JDR, if it wasn't for this pandemic, those guys wanted all their executives to be in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So,
but we sold the company to a bank. Everything was done over Zoom virtually. I didn't meet Chuck Sulowski until after we closed, and it's a unique experience, and it's worked out great almost a year into it. So
that's fantastic. And thank you for sharing that, Dan. And one of the things I see from you and North Star Leasing on like LinkedIn, for instance, is your, I guess it's just your commitment to giving back to your local community. And just wanted to see if you could talk on some of those initiatives real quick,
Sure.
or just your philosophy.
Sure. So I'm a firm believer that the reason why you work is to enjoy the proceeds of the effort in work. And part of that is spending time outside of work with your family and your friends and your community. And when you have a company like North Star Leasing, you have 40 folks who have diverse interests, and you want to, when you're talking to folks over coffee at the office, you learn what they are. Some people might be into biking, some people might be into rugby, some people might be into community capital fundraising goals, or cancer research or whatever. And so it's important. I thought it was important, and it resonated with our employees to support those organizations. And back in 2019, we celebrated our 40th anniversary. And I could have easily just made a decision and said, we're going to give money to this organization, or we're going to throw a big party. We decided to throw a big party, but we also decided to allocate to each of the 40 employees at that time. It was actually employees and shareholders, $1,000 each to give to the organization of their choice. And so we ended up writing 58 checks. We were able to split it up if you wanted to give to multiple locations, multiple organizations. And we gave 58 checks totaling $40,000 to organizations that I had never heard of. And what it did for me as the manager of the organization is there was suicide prevention, women helping battered women. There were the cancer, obviously, and leukemia, all the ones you've heard of. But there was an unbelievable amount of organizations that I had no idea how close some of our employees were to some of these nonprofits that affected my employees day in and day out. And it was sort of a wake-up call to be even more involved in helping my fellow employees get through their work day and their personal life. And we also commit a lot of time now since the acquisition by PIBO to encourage involvement in the community. It's what makes the world go round, is helping others. I have a simple phrase: succeed by helping others succeed. On the wall at North Star Leasing, how do we help somebody grow their business? Well, we look at, if you get involved with nonprofits, volunteering an hour or 2 or 3 hours a week, whatever it is, you're helping that organization succeed as well. And we just find that it's beneficial for all to sort of get involved in the community, give back, and reap the rewards of those positive vibes.
Now, that's a fantastic philosophy. That's actually how Equipment Finance Care started. It started off with me working with Laverne Gordon, on a book project. And all of a sudden, so I got into her foundation. I was like, wow, this is, terrible. It was Domestic Violence Awareness Foundation. And as I started to go further into it, it was like, okay, well, this organization does stuff. I didn't realize this person was impacted by having a blind child. I didn't realize this person had a kid that had cancer. And then it's like, exactly what you say. I didn't realize the impact of what people were going through. Now it's like, well, I remember them having a conversation where they did this, or they went on a mission to Africa, or they went somewhere. Right. And it's like, well, how can we get these people together so other people like me who aren't aware of what you are doing, how do we have a platform where we can showcase this?
Right. It's many hands make for little work, and if you can just spread out and find something that you're passionate about and become involved with that, it's a great way to exert energy and come home at the end of the day feeling pretty good about what you did at the end of the day, whether it's business or it's nonprofit or it's your personal life. It's all got to blend together, and I encourage that with all our employees, as does the rest of the bank.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the sales side, I think, my entire career in equipment finance, and helping others, or when you can make that change, make that donation, you see where it goes. The look on those kids' face, or even the foundation that you're giving the money to, like that, like sincere gratification. Yeah. Take that any day over it.
Jesse, another example of North Star. We're here in Vermont. Obviously, it's 20 degrees out, going down, and there's a young father, a divorced father with 2 kids. They were trying to figure out how to become more engaged with each other and their community, and to do something during the pandemic. And they had a bunch of wood on their property, and they realized that there's a bunch of folks in we live in Chittenden County, Vermont, Burlington, and they decided to start splitting the wood and delivering cords of wood to people in need throughout the community. And so he was on the local radio station, and telling his story. And I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. I called him up. I got his name from somebody. Called him up. I said, how can North Star Leasing help you out? We're in the equipment finance world. He said, A, you can, do a work day with us. And I said, okay, that's a given. We'll do that. We went out there and split some cords of wood. But what they really needed was a wood conveyor that would basically, after splitting the wood, drop it into the pickup truck for delivery. And so we're in the equipment finance world. That's a piece of cake. I made one phone call, called up the dealer down in New Hampshire. I said, we want to get this. And he thought we wanted to, uh, looking for a customer. I said, no, we're going to buy it. We're going to donate it to this guy. And so we ended up donating the 18-foot conveyor to it's called Wood for Good. If you want to look it up, Wood for Good with the number 4. And I just got an email from him yesterday that he delivered 150 cords of wood this year to folks who need wood to enable them to heat their house. That is awesome. A, it's exercise. B, we're helping people out. And at the end of the day, 8 or 10 of the 40 employees in North Star went out there and split some wood amongst other organizations, the Burlington Rotary Club and others that have helped out. So, and we're helping him, advise him on how to expand this nonprofit to other communities in and around Vermont, because we guarantee that there's an opportunity in these communities to do well. So we're excited. Again, just pick up the phone and ask the guy, how can we help you? A couple of years ago, we learned that over Thanksgiving, the local food shelf was looking for turkeys, and North Star Leasing, we had 10 cars filled with frozen turkeys. I think we delivered, 700 turkeys to the food bank. A team building exercise. It was really awesome. We continue to do a form of that to this day.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Dan.
Sure.
Thank you. I ask everyone who comes on here just to give a little fun fact about themselves, that people may not know about you.
Sure. Well, let's see. I've got a couple of fun facts. One is that I've been on the USS Montpelier. I never served in the military, but I'm very fond and supportive of those who have served in the military. And by getting involved in a nonprofit, back in 2003, we built the Lone Sailor Memorial here in Burlington. The Navy was founded on Lake Champlain here in Vermont. And I got involved with a nonprofit, and basically my thank you from them was a ride aboard the USS Montpelier, which is a Los Angeles class attack nuclear powered submarine. And I've been on that now 3 times. If you can envision Denzel Washington on the top of and Gene Hackman on the top of the conning tower smoking a cigar. He put me out there, and I've done that 3 times. Gone under, gone.
I was gonna say, did you dive?
Dove. We do it. We did a drive and dive, and it's not called a drive and dive. I'll think of it. But went down 900 feet. Was out for 12 hours. Had 2 square meals on it. Food was delicious. The crew was awesome. I actually got to drive.
Any potential claustrophobia being?
No, when you first go down, you got the entranceway as a hatch. It's like going down a sewer hole. It's about 3 feet in diameter. It can get a little claustrophobic if you are, but once you get in there, I think it's about a 36-foot diameter. Not diameter. What's it? Circumference or diameter? Let's see. It's diameter. 36 feet. So it's pretty big. 3 levels. And so I was able to go on the USS Montpelier 3 times. And then a second fun fact is I've got 3 daughters, and 2 of my daughters went on to play sports in college. And our middle daughter, Madison, won 3 national championships in soccer for Williams College. And my youngest daughter, or our youngest daughter, Abigail, won 2 national championships in lacrosse down at Savannah College of Art and Design. And our oldest daughter, Emma, went to NYU in Shanghai, China for 4 years back in 2013. So those are some fun facts.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I took my family to San Diego just before Christmas, and we went on the Midway. And I know that's a battleship compared to not a battleship, but is my
Aircraft
findings.
carrier.
Aircraft carrier compared to a submarine, but anyhow, those are some pretty tight quarters there, and all things considered. So I think of a sub, and I'm like, huh. And then you're
Yeah.
underwater, like you can just get up and go.
It's angle, and it's called angle and dangle. That's what it was, angle and dangle. You basically are going along underwater, and then they drop down, and it drops down to on about a 35-degree angle, and so you're able basically to stand leaning back as the boat is descending and then up. It's really truly amazing, the technology. And what's even more impressive than the technology are the people that serve day in and day out, so that we can do what we do here. The average kid in the Navy is 21 years old, 19 years old, 18 years old. 2 years ago they were in Des Moines, Iowa high school or wherever, and now they're driving a $1.5 billion ship. It's really truly amazing.
I understand and echo your sentiments there, sir. I've been asking people this year who they would like to see me speak with on this show. I don't know how many of these you've watched over the last 13 months, but is there another individual that you would like me to reach out to and speak with?
Yeah. An individual versus a cast of characters. I would ask you to, and I may be able to help you find some young folks who are coming into the leasing world and what attracted them. Because I think that in order for the association, the ELFA and the NIFAs of the world to blossom, we got to figure out how to attract younger folks who are coming out of college, and what attracts them to this industry. Because it's every day I go to work, every day I adjudicate. You get 35 applications a day. Unbelievable business models that I had no idea that these businesses actually existed. And so every day is a totally different day for me. And I'm trying to figure out how are folks getting involved? Why are they joining leasing companies at the age of 23, 24, 25 years old? And so I don't have necessarily a name, but I'd love to find some folks who are younger than me, younger than the folks that you've spoken to already. What brought you to the leasing world? And because I think it'd be interesting for all of us to learn how we can attract more people, because that's what we're trying to do is grow the industry and attract people to the industry.
Well, coming up, our next EFC event is in Ohio. Great American Insurance is hosting, and Sean McKenna is actually going to be moderating an ETAC panel.
Oh, great!
So maybe we'll see if we have you come join us there. Maybe it might be time to visit the mothership.
There you go. Yeah, the bank is out in Marietta, Ohio. It's a tough place to get to from Burlington. I've done it a couple of times so far, but it's worth getting there because it's part of the U.S. They call it the flyover states, and I just think the people who live in these communities are just salt of the earth. They're very kind, and I enjoy getting. When I finally get there, I enjoy the time the effort of getting there. But boy, it's tough to get there sometimes.
No, that's a fair statement. Me trying to get anywhere to the East Coast right now, it's like, come on.
Exactly.
So for Dan, of all the different finance companies out there to do business with, why North Star?
Well, back in 2005, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I sort of stumbled across North Star. I had known them as the CFO of Green Mountain Coffee. They were a vendor of ours, and so they would provide equipment financing for the large accounts that we had. Loaner equipment is the coffee machines, the espresso machines, and so forth. And then I joined the Burlington Country Club and became the treasurer of the club there. And we used to use North Star Leasing to finance our ditch diggers, our maintenance equipment, our club cars, and so forth. So I learned of them as a customer. And then when I heard they were looking to retire and sell, there was only 8 jobs. Actually, the little known secret is that the company had been sold and agreed to by Madison Capital. Alan Levine from Madison Capital. They'd come to terms, but the founders of the organization of North Star decided they didn't want to lose those 8 jobs. They wanted the jobs to stay in Burlington. And so I swept in after that deal didn't come through, and I ended up buying it. And so why North Star Leasing? It's sort of like I wanted to, I had owned a coffee company down in Atlanta, Georgia. I was traveling back and forth Tuesdays and Thursdays. My wife and I started having children. It was just, I wanted to be around Burlington. I didn't want to be traveling all the time. And so it came about. And I did my due diligence on North Star. I had talked to the outside accountants. I had talked to the bank that they were using. It was KeyBank. And they all said the same thing. This is a diamond in the rough. The founders had run their course. They were in their late 60s. And they just, what rolled off the books went on the books, and that was it, to making a good living. And so we bought it. And at that time, we had a $6 million line with KeyBank. And when we first bought it, it went to 9 million. And then we went to 14 million. And then we went to 22 million, 27, 35, 45, 60, 80, and 100 million over the next, over the 15 years that we owned it. And it wasn't like a hockey stick, but it was solid growth. And that was through the recession and the pandemic. And we stuck to our knitting. We really did a nice job at the $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 average ticket price. It wasn't like we went out and bought a portfolio, or we increased our average ticket from 10,000 to 150,000. We just basically, we've increased the average ticket price, but we didn't go crazy. And we thought that was the best way to grow. We use the phrase at North Star Leasing, stick to our knitting. And we think we do a really good job. And I've been blessed by buying it back in 2006. I've met some unbelievably great people that I work with day in and day out. And I've met some really great people in the industry that I wouldn't have known. And I feel pretty good, having started out as an accountant, to be in the position I'm in now. Yeah, accounting is important, numbers are important, but I've really enjoyed every aspect of North Star Leasing, and the ability to go to work and see how people make a living. It blows me away. And every day I learn something new about some business that's out there that I had never heard of. And it's really quite exciting.
Well, thank you for that. And I really appreciate your time today, Dan, and look forward to seeing you at some of these upcoming events that we have here this year.
Great. Thank you, Jesse.